Welcome to Evolution on the Mic. I am your host, Ariana de la Cruz.
And I'm your co-host, Antoine Dove.
And we are here, season 3, The Journey to Success. Today, we are interviewing Dr. Leslie, but I do want to talk about what we discussed last episode, because if you guys missed it, I want you guys to check it out. It was titled, What Does Success Mean? And in that episode, we had discussed what does success mean to me and Antoine's in terms of money, talents, and how they both have manifested in our lives. But today, episode 4, we're interviewing Dr. Leslie, and we're going to learn about her and her journey to success. And I want to introduce Dr. Leslie. She is a licensed psychotherapist. She is a serial entrepreneur. She is a woman of God. She is also a real estate investor, and she owns multiple properties. And I am very blessed to say that Dr. Leslie is a very good friend of mine. We met in a real estate mentorship, and she was my accountability partner. We started the same day, and we were partnered up, and we were so grateful to be partnered together in the real estate mentorship, because it grew us together as friends, as God lovers, as women that are seeking their purpose and their destiny. And she has been someone, as the therapist that she is, she has been someone that has been able to listen to me, believe in me, see me, and just give me a lot of words of encouragement in the times that I needed through that journey that I was in that mentorship. And even outside of the mentorship, me and Dr. Leslie stay in very close contact, and it's a blessing to have her in my life. So without further ado, Leslie, how you doing today? We're so glad to have you, Antoine and I.
I am doing well. I'm super nervous, but I'm just so excited. This podcast is booming, it's popping, and I definitely know that it's helping a lot of people. So I'm excited to be a part.
No, we're definitely very glad to have you. I know some parts of your story, Leslie. We talk a lot, and we've cried, we've talked, we've delved into our past, our future, who we want to be, and everything that we talk about has God in the center, right? And everything that we want to do is to serve Him, and possibly even partner together in the future with certain things, certain passions that are very similar, giving back, you know what I mean, to the communities. So I'm very, I'm excited to see that on how God is going to unfold that. So today I really don't know what you're going to bring to the table. So I am very excited, and on the edge of my seat, like probably everyone else here is. And so we're just gonna, ask you some questions and really get to know you and the sides of you that God put on your heart to bring to us, so that everyone that's watching can feel a sense of, purpose within themselves, through your journey. You know what I mean? Because we're all in this together, and we all can learn from one another. And that is my hope in this podcast, in this season. So Dr. Leslie, can you walk us through a specific challenge or setback you faced on your journey to success, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest challenge is one, knowing when to let go of relationships,
Mm,
staying firm with what God has told me and what I know is the calling assigned to my life, and that calling impacts others. So I can't get caught up with, oh, my best friend wants me to go hang out, but I need to do X, Y, and Z because this is attached to someone else. You get what I'm saying? Um, and then just staying true to who I am as relationships grow, evolve, or maybe they even discontinue. I feel like the season that I'm in, I am engaging in a lot of self-reflection, and kind of just sometimes when you're experiencing trials or tribulations, you can be stuck in that moment. And one, you forget what God has done for you, and also like the strengths, like the internal strengths that you have. Throughout my journey, even from a child till now, when you think about my success. So, backstory, I'm from a small rural town called Farmville, Virginia. Everyone that you went to elementary school with, you went to high school with, middle school and high school. Like it's two schools, a private school and a public school. That's all you got.
mm,
Um, and so growing up, I like to say I define what success looks like for me. But as I've grown and I've evolved, ultimately, how I view success is aligned with God's will and what He has for me. So as I've matured and I've encountered different roadblocks, setbacks, and just areas for growth, I've realized that everybody can't go with you on your journey, and everybody is not going to understand or appreciate or value the level of discipline that you have to go get it. And so, my mom is a recovering addict. Uh, as she would say, she grew up in the streets. And so I've spent quite some time in unsafe environments and drug infested neighborhoods, houses, crack houses. I've seen things, I've been around things enough to be street sense and of course, very educated and smart. And so, all of that has impacted my drive. Growing up, I would always say, I can't wait to get out of Farmville. But there's a caveat to that. My goal has always been to get out of Farmville, but also to return and bring back to the community things and to give back. One of the things, my idea is like, I really want a boys and girls home, like boys and girls home, group homes, things like that. It's not a lot for kids to do. So I'm mentioning these things because if you're not from a small rural town where I'm from, and it's not a lot of opportunities for career advancement, right? And formal and informal education may be scarce, or the opportunities to receive a certain quality of education, formal and informal, right? Um, you might not have that same
That's true.
drive as I have. I've had a lot of great mentors along the way, and it takes a village, people to step in when my mom could not, to guide me and steer me. But the biggest thing I've realized is that sometimes relationships are for seasons. And if God has told me to do something, I shouldn't care what anybody else thinks. They're not going to understand it. I was at church the other week, last week actually, and the pastor was saying, sometimes you can get frustrated with the level of sacrifice you have to put in. And Ariana, you and I, we've talked about that. I'd be like, girl, I'd be feeling like I have to do X, Y, and Z. Meanwhile, somebody else can do the bare minimum. And I have to constantly go to God, and I have to repent, because the level of anointing that I have on me and what's attached to my assignment, someone else may not be required for that same level of discipline or sacrifice that is required of me. And so I think you all kind of know, I'm kind of like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what it is. Either you rocking with it or you not. I do handle people with care, but this is a season where when it comes to my success, it's not my success, it's really God's success, because he's doing some things. And so either you're with it or you're not. And I really don't care if you're with it, because my goal is to please him.
Yeah. What I hear from you is about boundaries. So you're in a season of, understanding the boundary that everyone can have access to you. And the people that does have access to you are the people that are willing to be a part of your journey and encourage you and add value to it, not people that are going to take energy from you and not see the things you're doing and maybe judge you or maybe try to steer you in the wrong path, or maybe people that are not in the place of sacrificing, right, in the place of putting God first, because that will affect you, right? The people that we surround ourselves with does affect our energy, and our energy needs to be clean. Like me and Antoine always say, we have to keep that pipeline clean, because if it's distorted, if it's clogged, what happens is we kind of will stray away from God's purpose, right? God will find a way to get us back on the purpose, but it's going to be maybe a year or 2, 3 years later, because we decided to not do the things that God wants us to do, with, having that discernment of who in this time of my season, who needs to be here and who doesn't, and setting those boundaries for yourself, right? And that's very important. So that's kind of like what I'm hearing from you in this. How about you, Antoine? Is there anything you're picking up?
Yeah. I'm loving the conversation about relationships. I think that's been a big part of our podcast, Dr. Leslie, is the relationships, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with God, and our relationship with others. I think as you go through your journey, and what you're highlighting is that there is an evolution process that you go through as you're going through your journey. And there was a time where there were people that were in your life that were purposely put there to support you in whatever way that may be healthy or unhealthy. They were there for you. But as you've matured and you've grown in your walk with Christ and with God, he started to give you a bit of discernment. And like Ariana is saying, that pipeline's clean. And so you're hearing a different message than maybe you would have heard in the early years of Farmville. So that homegirl that was like elementary school, we in second grade together kicking it, by the time now, where you're at now, that person, although she was an instrumental part through elementary, middle, and high school, now she may not serve the same purpose in your life. And who knows, God may be using you as a tool to bring something back to your community to support those folks who supported you in a different way. And I think that's what I'm hearing is there's this evolution process that you've been going through. As just a follow-up question, if you don't mind me asking, Dr. Leslie, what do you think has been, or who has been the toughest, I guess, relationship? You have to give a specific name. Like, is it friends? Is it family? That's been the toughest relationship that you've had to either cut ties from or move on from? And how have you done that? Because I think that's another thing. There's people who listen to the podcast who are like, I know I need to do it. I don't even know where to start. Like, how do I do that?
Especially when it's a loved one, it gets even harder when it's someone you think should always be there. Like, how can I just cut ties with this person? So great question, Antoine.
As a psychotherapist, I'm always analyzing my decisions, how I follow through with things, making sure that I'm not responding to things. Things are not our trauma response, right? So I'll start off with saying, I think I mentioned it before, I define what success looks like. I think that there is, it's not rocket science to know that our ideologies, our experiences, whether they are positive or negative throughout life, but particularly in childhood, impact the decisions that we make as an adult and will influence our drive for success and interest, right? And so whereas family and friends are like, oh, you're an overachiever, you're doing too much, just rest. You don't have to do that. What? You can come to the cookout. No, but I'm in a doctoral program. This is when I was in my doctoral program at the University of Southern California. I'm like, I don't have anyone helping me with my bills. I'm working full time. I'm in a doctoral program. I don't have a husband to assist me. I'm literally leaning on God to help me get through this process. The biggest challenge, I would say, with setting those emotional time, financial boundaries, because boundaries aren't just emotional, right? And physical boundaries, I would say, will be with my family because since a child, a lot of people didn't understand me or get me. Prime example, I know we kind of mentioned off topic about the dog. I just got a red Siberian Husky. My god sister, she said, it's so funny because everything that you say you're gonna do, you do. She was like, in 24 hours, you went and you got that dog. And she was like, everything, like, it just always works out for you. And so it can be challenging and hurtful, especially when family, you have those expectations. Like, if anybody should understand me, you all should. Like, the challenges that I've endured as a child, some of the challenges I've endured or that I'm currently enduring as an adult. Why can't you get this or, see this? So I think implementing those boundaries have been, they have been challenging on the outskirts. I would like to say probably family and friends will be like, oh, she's quick to cut people off. And part of that is also true. Because I'm a firm believer in, if I'm not going to allow a man to abuse me mentally, physically, and emotionally and be manipulative, I'm not going to allow family members to do that. And I also preach that with my clients or my patients. Now, does that mean I have never been in a manipulative relationship or I haven't allowed family members to do those things? Absolutely, I have, right? But I think that as you grow and you evolve, you start identifying unhealthy patterns, one that you have with yourself and with others. So if I'm allowing someone to be manipulative and make me think my drive to go get it and be successful and to get my doctorate, to become licensed, to manage these properties versus selling them, to try to steer me and be manipulative in that way, or be emotionally abusive, if I'm allowing that to happen, then we need to take some steps back. So, little backstory, I do have a sister. I have an older sister, phenomenal woman. But we have not really lived together long term. I grew up primarily with my mother, and my grandparents raised my sister. So, two totally different lifestyles, dynamics, upbringings. There were periods where we were together, like when my mom was incarcerated or was out in the streets. But primarily, our upbringings are different. We have great influences, similar influences like our grandparents, family members, X, Y, and Z, but night and day upbringings, right? So, how she may view, or family members may view certain things, like you could take a break, you could relax, you could be at ease. But when you've been in a crack house as a kid, and my drive started out, I'm getting my homework done while people shooting up heroin, and the man around the corner is giving me googly eyes. Like, I don't want this for my life. I want more, and I want to set the foundation for my children to grow up in a healthy environment, not just only financially, but mentally, spiritually, and emotionally.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, when it's like your family, and
Mhm.
you want them to understand your path and your journey. You want them to be a cheerleader and support you and encourage you. Not like, really, you're gonna do all that? You're not gonna hang out with us? You're not gonna spend time with us? It's like a war, a tug of war. But like you're saying, when you're leaning on God and what God is asking of you and what He wants from you, right? You kind of don't you are no longer dependent on, well, I got to make sure my family's happy, I got to make sure I'm doing what they're asking me to do. It's like, I want to make sure that God is happy with me. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything that He wants me to do, because when I stray away from what God is asking me to do, it is not pretty on the other side, because we've been going through it, right? And I know we both have gone through some things when we steer away, right? When we decide to just fall along the path of the people around us and what they would like us for us to do in a moment of time. But it's because of those times when we have folded and we have given in, or we haven't really stayed on the path, that we've learned, because we've seen how God so gracefully picked us up, right? He picked us up like we never fell, right? And He shows us so much love, and He shows us so much grace. And that's why we just continue to have to set that boundary, and we do it with less and less guilt, shame, pain. It's just now a pure understanding that if God is in this with me, He's the one that's really truly always there for me, right? Not that our family and friends aren't, but He's the Almighty, right? He's the powerful one that connects all of us together. So He is the ruler and the controller of it all, and I'm going to continue to lean into Him and what He wants me to do, because I'm sorry, but you guys, you know what I mean? Like, you guys have failed me. You guys sometimes don't understand, don't have my best interest, not because you mean to. Sometimes maybe they do mean to, right? But sometimes they really don't. They genuinely think they're guiding you correctly, but they're not. You know what I mean? But it hurts, because you just want them to be there. You just want them to understand. You just want them to walk in the journey with you. you know for me, I want the people that are behind me, that are my family and my friends, like that I care for a lot, I want them to be in the journey with me, like be just as successful as me. And I had to learn, girl, not everybody's going to come to the journey with you, because where you're going, where you're elevating to, they're just, that's just not their, it wasn't written in their plan. And it's okay, but it took me years of understanding that, and to genuinely let that go and let those people go. I still love you. If you need me, I'm here, but I cannot no longer continue in that closeness of talking every day or all the time. It boundaries, and we can talk sometimes and not all the time. And that was really hard for me. So I can only imagine, like, you mentioned that this was like, one of the hardest things for you to do. And it's your your family and them not understanding. So,
I think also, sorry, not to piggyback off of what you were saying, I think also kind of like I don't know about you all, but God has really been speaking to me about idols and what that looks like. And
Mm.
sometimes we can idolize um, our families, specific family members. And so it's kind of like, do you care more about what they think or their feelings? Are you prioritizing that over God, right? And so I've really been doing assessments when it comes to relationships in my life. Antoine, you mentioned like, what does the cutoff look like? I'm gonna be honest with you. Lately, it's been block, delete, no access. And I say it like that, and I want the viewers to feel it because, even as a therapist, people will say, oh, you need to have proper closure. Sometimes God gonna tell you, sometimes God will tell you, and sometimes he won't. You have to know whether you're doing this for yourself and if you're doing it in a respectful and caring way, because things do need to be done with care. But sometimes, depending on the cost and how detrimental it is to you, if you're not going to return to something and say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't keep doing this because if I do this again, it's going to kill me, right? You're going to immediately cease interactions. And I think we don't look at it from that perspective. So if possibly these relationships are negatively impacting my physical and mental health and it's becoming detrimental, um, a sit down chat talk about, I don't know, why the relationship isn't working, or I guess proper closure, that may not be necessary. And I mean, closure looks different for everyone. Right now, I'm in a season block, delete, you don't have access. You keep playing with me, you don't have access. And when I say you keep playing with me, I mean you keep being abusive and playing with my mental, physical health, because all those things intertwine and come together. And I need to be clear mentally so that one, that I can hear from God, I can have proper discernment. And unfortunately, well, I guess it's not unfortunate, but God speaks to me and I hear him. And I'm really trying to find a balance between one, being human, hearing him and executing what he wants me to do in this cutoff process. And it doesn't mean that it's long term. Sometimes it can be temporary, but you all mentioned before, we have to be mindful of the gates that we open and the portals that we open. So that's eyes, ears, our hearts, all those sorts of things. And so if I'm talking to a family member and they snap on me and I'm triggered, and now I'm going back to X, Y, and Z and questioning my capabilities and my worth. And, ultimately, if you're making me feel bad regarding my success and what God has provided for me, I have now intentionally placed myself in a position to be triggered and go down a rabbit hole. Insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results, and that includes our relationships with people. And
Yeah.
I also want to say, like, I'm not perfect. I'm growing and I'm evolving. I'm working on improving within my relationships. So the things that I'm saying, if somebody needs to block, delete me, not talk to me, I understand it. It's all good.
Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
What
like
y'all
trying not to
laughing?
laugh. No, no, and I love that you said that, because even as you're talking, like there's people in my life right now that like I'm having that tug of war with myself, whereas like I want to have them around because maybe like hanging around with them is cool and it's fun, but then I feel like a part of me, God is like, not right now, right? And I'm like a little sad, right? Because it's like, well, I don't want to just cut them off, like it's fun to have somebody to just on the weekend to hang out with or do stuff with. And I just feel like I'm having the tug of war myself right now that but what I'm hearing from you is that it's okay to block, delete when someone is you not feeling it within you, that like, how can I explain it? Like you just don't feel right. It feels a little icky, right? That even though a part of you is like with it, it's cool, no problem. Like there's no harm coming from this. I'm not doing anything wrong. But it's like you feel what God is telling you. And even though I don't understand it, it's like, girl, I feel like this is like my sign to just block, delete for now, because I know that it's not something that is really serving my walk right now with God. You know what I mean? And again, not that I'm doing anything wrong or the person is a bad person. It's just having that discernment and feeling it that something isn't right. I don't really know what it is. I don't see it yet. But do I want to wait to like see it? Do I want to wait a few months from now and then I'm like, oh, I wish I would have listened because now I'm in some shit, right? And I am hearing from you that kind of like what struck me. And I'm sure that for the viewers watching, if there's anybody in your life right now that you just feel like you need to disconnect from because the path that they're walking is not the path that you're walking, like it's okay. It don't have to be, well, let's have a conversation. Like, so they might not even understand because maybe you don't even understand. You just know that God is talking to you and you're following that voice. And that's it.
And sometimes conversations are warranted. I'm not saying
Yeah.
don't have a conversation, but you have to know and be able to discern the risk associated with it and what God is telling you. So even Ariana, where you're like, hey, this may be a sign for me to do X, Y, and Z. Girl, go on back to God, ask God what he wants you to do. And then also too, sometimes block and delete and not talking to people may not have anything to do with the person. It may have something to do with what God is trying to do within you. They may not have done anything wrong. So I also think that, situations like that, you have to be self-aware and kind of be in tune with what God has going on. Sometimes he's going to separate you. I'm in a season of separation and isolation right now. And so some people get it, some people don't. I've had a conversation with people, hey, listen, I'm going off the grid. I'm spending more time with God. I'm just trying to get realigned and figure out what is really going on and how to grow closer with him. Then Ariana, like you said, some people are not going to even be able to grasp that. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to be able to grasp it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think you just have to make sure within those conversations that you're asking for strength from God to stand firm to what you've already agreed to do with him, because people will make you start questioning and second guessing. Oh, do I really have to go all in? Do I really need to do this? Oh, going off the grid, that sounds so boring. It's a hot girl summer like coming up. I'm just being transparent. But then that goes back to like idolizing, like you idolizing the summer, possibly getting in unhealthy relationships and things you got no business doing versus sitting down and really meditating on the word, reading the Bible, increasing your community engagement with like-minded Christians, really like taking part of that spiritual formation journey.
Mm.
Yeah, I love what
Yeah,
said on
you
that.
kind of like segue into like the next thing I wanted to know, like how you do it. Like how do you maintain focus and drive amidst the challenges and distractions along your path to success?
One, listening to God, making him the center and the focus and priority, like really including him in everything. I am trying to do that more and more each day. Prioritizing God, because without him, we can't do anything. Two, being disciplined. I figured out a formula and it works for me. And I'm like an all or nothing person. And I talk about this in therapy. Sometimes that can be very unhealthy. But reality is my all or nothing behaviors. I got a master's in less than 12 months. I got a doctorate degree in 2 years. I am a licensed psychotherapist. And the formula works. I've heard God since I was a kid. I'm going to always bring it back to God, even with going into my doctoral program. God told me specifically to apply for the University of Southern California. I was like, oh, that school, that's a little hard to get into. I don't know about that. And he was like, only apply to that school. And I was like, no. And so I applied to other schools. They were the first ones to contact me. By the time everybody else contacted me back, as far as like fast in the application, and I was already accepted. The third one would be being my authentic self. And I really have to shout out my mama for that, because she is raw and rough around the edges. And if anything, my mama Lauren has told me was just be yourself, Leslie. And I think that I'm a work in progress, right? Even though you know, I'm learning every day what God has assigned for me. I've known since younger I can't do what everybody else does. There is uh the risk and the consequence is higher. And that's not saying I didn't party like a rock star younger and, typical things. But as I grow and I mature and I'm an adult, the price that I will pay for my decisions, God's grace is sufficient, but just like I don't want to be played with, he don't want to be played with either. So right now I'm in a season with finding a balance. With finding my balance, like if I don't have a balance with God, I don't have a balance with anything. And yes, I have become successful and I have, I've gained success and I've have great things going on in my life. But if I've done that with inconsistent faith, right? And not really a thorough devotion time and discipline to God wholeheartedly, what can I do? Like, where is that drive at, Liz? Like, all right, it's game time. So like now I'm like, all right, the balance now is prioritizing God, being disciplined, and being disciplined with God in my devotion time so that we can the evolution, the elevation, I want it all.
Mm. No, I love that. I love that you said like, like having that relationship with God and like doing it like whatever he's asking you to do, because it kind of brought me back that sometimes we do things for ourselves. And when we do things for ourselves and we're walking in a path of not having that time with God, not doing our devotional, not connecting with him, not hearing from him, and we kind of stop all that, right? Because there's times where I've just didn't really meditate, didn't really try to connect with God. And I was like, oh, I got this. Like, maybe things are going really good. And I'm like, I got this for now. God, thank you. Thank you for the push, but I'm good now. Like I've done that. And it's like, then I start doing things on my own and slowly but surely things start crumbling down. Right. And that has happened to me too much to the point where now I'm like, God, whatever you say, I don't care if it makes no sense. I don't care if I have no idea what's happening on the other side of things, no idea what's brewing underneath the ground, but I'm going to wait to see what's going to come up, because I am no longer going to do things on my own. I'm going to continue to stay in you and whatever that looks like so that I can maintain that focus, right? So I can get through the challenges. And so I definitely love that. And I do want like the viewers to really like, that's, I'm just repeating it because I really want that to hit home, that is like one of the main biggest components of success is, being in God and having that time with him and keeping your mind clear, right? And sometimes staying away from people that are not serving your journey. And whenever you have challenges, God will, even if things are going like chaotic, you will have peace because God will give you peace, right? So then it helps you get through the next day and the next day and the next day. And although things are not going to get better right away, right? Because God never said that things are just going to magically happen or there's not going to be pain and there's not going to be struggles. We're all going to have trials. And sometimes we stay in them longer than we like, if I'm being completely honest. But it's the peace that he gives us through the pain and the challenges and the loneliness, because like you had mentioned, like you do feel alone in this time, right? Like right now, just you and God, that's it, right? But you are doing that because there was a time where it wasn't just you and God, and you already know how that felt. You've been there, done that, cop the sweater and the hat, right? So now you're like, no, I am going to just stay here, and I'm going to stay here for as long as it takes, because now I'm in a path, I'm on a journey, and I know what God has called me to do, and what God has called me to do is big. It's massive. It's expansive. It's to help and heal like on a big scale. So it's going to be worth it. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't want to feel that pain of loneliness. Like we can't take it. We can't face ourselves. We can't face ourselves and our demons and and the pains of being alone, because it triggers traumas of maybe abandonment, of insecurities, of low self-esteem. But God can make us whole and give us and show us love and make us feel whole and hug us and give us like that warm, loving feeling of the father that he is and the friend that he is. He can do that, and he can bring us that when we're going through our challenges, when things are not feeling like they're going good in the moment. Like He's our father. He's our friend. He's our everything. And if we put him first and we prioritize him, everything else will follow. The right people will come to our path. The people that will support us, that will cheerlead us on. The people that we may even need to help, that God puts in our path for us to help in the right time. All of that will come. But we do need to have that relationship and that community with God first, and understanding what he's asking of us, and it's not forever, right? It's just a season. And sometimes people think, when is it going to end? Like, when am I going to finally get that person back in my life? Or when am I going to be able to have friends again? Or when am I going to date again? Or whatever it is for you, just know that it's worth it. Because when the right people come, when you're in a good place and you're strong enough to kind of be around people that at one point will probably broke you, you're going to stand with confidence, because that confidence is that God confidence. You're going to have love in your heart when people are trying to hurt you, and that's God love. And that no one and nothing on this planet can give us that but God. And it's worth it each and every day. And at the end of it, having that time with him, and, making him the center, and having all the things you said, being authentic, not trying to just do things on your own or listening to other people. It's, God is a beautiful God, and I'm always gonna rep that.